All right, what's going on, guys? So I ended up coming across a KA dual cam, and the guy said it was making some weird noise, and he pulled it out. He didn't really know what was going on with it, so I ended up pretty much picking it up for like 40 bucks, and I'm gonna pull it apart now and kind of see what's wrong with it. If it's completely trashed, like the whole bottom end's gone, then I probably won't do anything with it. But if it just needs bearings, then I'll probably do some stuff, and I may put it in this car. I haven't really decided on it yet. I'll know more once I like get into the motor a little bit. The only things I've done so far to it is I drained the oil, and the first thing that came out was a bunch of coolant. So that tells me the head gasket's probably gone bad, and there was a little bit of metal shavings in it. I don't really know how bad it was. So I'm gonna pull the pan off and look in the bottom end, and I'm probably gonna pull some cam caps off and make sure that there's no heat marks in the journals, and make sure that they're not scored up, and go from there. So I'm gonna start tearing it apart. I need to pretty much pull the intake manifold off. There's like a bunch of oil in here, which he said is because the motor was rocked to the side. So I don't know, maybe not. Valve covers pretty much already loose. There's no studs in it, so I need to get the studs for it, obviously. And then I'll probably pull the stock header off and just kind of get it out of the way, because the head's gonna end up having to come off. And this distributor's broke, so I'll have to get a new one of those if I decide to run it. I mean, it just pulls right out. So it definitely needs some work, but we're gonna start pulling it apart and see how bad it is. So I pulled a couple of the cam caps off to check for scoring, and then I pulled the spark plugs out to see how those looked. And cylinder 3 is probably going to be destroyed. It's going to need a new head, because I'll show you in a minute. All the cam caps I pulled are all scored up. There's metal shavings in the head. So yeah, that's the spark plug out of cylinder 3. Definitely not supposed to look like that, so the piston probably hit the spark plug or chunks of the piston or something else in there. And then like when you pull these cam caps off, so yeah, when you pull these cam caps off, I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's a bunch of scoring in there. The journals are pretty much all messed up as well. So yeah, this motor's gonna need a lot of work if I want to run it. I don't know if I'm going to now, because I really don't know if I want to put that much money into a KA, because I'm sure the block itself is probably pretty messed up too. So I'm gonna pull the head off of it now. I'm just kind of curious to see how bad that cylinder is. So I'm gonna start pulling the head off, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get it. So I pretty much got everything off the head that I need to. I didn't do it like the most orthodox way, or if I was really worried about saving the head. But like I said, this head is ruined. All of these cam journals, I know it's hard to see on this camera, but they're all scored, and you can't really fix that. I mean, they're scored, like there's chunks taken out of that one. So the head's completely destroyed. So I just want to see how the low end looks. So all I have to do now is pull the head bolts out. Yeah, I pretty much need to go pick up the piece to get down to the head bolts so I can pull the heads off, or pull the head bolts out and then pull the head off, and then I'll be able to see what that cylinder looks like. I know on the intake side, that's full of oil, and I don't really understand why that one cylinder is full of oil in the intake side, but I'm assuming the piston's probably got chunks taken out of it, so then oil was allowed to just kind of go up into the cylinder. So we'll kind of get that figured out once I get it off. As you can see, I pretty much just pulled the intake manifold off and then pulled it back to the side, pulled the exhaust off and the cam gears and all the timing and stuff. I should have done that a little different, but I really didn't want to pull the water pump right now, and I'm sure the whole low end's destroyed too, so I'm not really worried about it. So yeah, there's just a couple head bolts on each side, and then I'll pull those out and the head will come off. All right, so it's the next day. I had to go get a tool this morning to get the head bolts off. I thought they were a different size and they were, and I didn't have the actual like Allen key for it. So I had to go pick that up so I could break the head bolts free and get the head off of it to see how the low end looked. So I got that off, pulled the head off. There was no bent valves or anything, just like looking in through the ports. So I figured it was probably all right. And then I started looking at the motor, and it's completely destroyed, and so is the head. So it's not salvageable. I'm just gonna sell most of the stuff off of it if someone needs it. Like the power steering pump, alternator, exhaust, manifold, intake manifold, all that stuff. And then the block, maybe I'll make a table out of it or scrap it. It's bad enough to where there's nothing you can do to fix it. And the head's the same way. The head's completely destroyed. So I'll show you the block. All right, so here's the block. You can see there's definite metal shavings in that cylinder. And then you move to this one, and the piston is completely destroyed and like split in half. It's wedged down in there. I honestly don't even know how it got that bad in there. And like the cylinder walls are completely just gouged so deep there's no way you could hone that out or bore it or do anything like that. All the rest of the cylinders look pretty good other than the metal shavings in them. And then the head gasket was pretty messed up too, so there was like coolant in the oil and all. All right, so I was able to turn the motor over just off the crank bolt, and part of the piston came free. I don't know where the other 3/4 of it are, probably down in the oil pan somewhere. And I noticed that once you look down in there, you can see that there's chunks taken out of the counterbalance and the crank. So it's not worth my time to flip the motor over and pull the pan off, because the rods are ruined, and I'm sure there's so much metal and everything down in there. Everything's ruined. So I'm not gonna spill the oil all over my garage just to look at a bunch of ruined parts. So I apologize for this video kind of being inconclusive. I thought this was gonna be like a cool couple videos on building a KA-T for this car and kind of doing something that I haven't really done before. But unfortunately this block is ruined, and I'll have to find another one or pick another motor for a swap, like an SR or V8, something, I don't know yet. But I appreciate you guys watching this video, and there's gonna be a lot more content coming soon. I know it's been kind of slow lately, but with the weather and everything going on, we just haven't been able to film too much. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, and I will see you in the next one.